We have Deepali Jane. Is that right pronunciation of your name?
Yeah,
Deepali
it's
Jane.
right.
Ah,
Yeah.
thank you. Who will be talking about her experiences from Grace Hopper Conference, the world's largest gathering of women technologists. GHC encompasses inspiring keynotes and sessions, networks with peers, and important resources.
Okay. So Deepali is a GHC and is currently seeking job opportunities in computer science. And as a woman tech ambassador, she will talk about more about her specialty in the tech industry, which could feed your curiosity and interest.
Hi Deepali, it's really nice to meet
Hi.
you and talk to you like this. I'm Justin, your host for today, and uh,
I'm Hannah.
Hi,
she's
Justin. Hi,
Hannah.
Hannah.
Hello. So, how have you been during this unusual time?
Uh, I'm fine now, actually coping up to live with this thing because as we know that it had been long since we are in lockdown or quarantine. So I think it's becoming the new normal to stay at home and work, but I do miss my university. That's it.
Yes, I really agree. I really do miss my university as well. Could you share a little bit about what is it like you do in
Mhm.
your normal day or in your typical day? What is your typical day like?
Okay. So as you guys know that I am pursuing masters in computer science from State University of New York, Buffalo. So being a computer science student, my day usually starts with staring the screen and it typically ends on the same note. So currently I am working with a startup Help the World and on a research project with my professor. So most of the time goes in doing the work and attending the meeting, and apart from that, I like to doodle, learn new technologies, dance if I get time. And as I'm preparing for full-time opportunities, I do competitive coding also. Try to do it daily. That's how my day ends. That's it.
Okay, that's
That's
actually
really nice.
interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting pala, no? Um, I've heard that it's really difficult to get into GHC. What's one advice you can give to all those aspiring women who want to get in there as well?
I won't lie, it's very difficult because I first got GHC India in 2017, and then I got GHC for in 2020. That's this year only. So the key would be you need to try and search every nook and corner that you can be. I'll be very honest, how I got to know about GHC, it started with a Google search, random Google search. So in 2017, I was in my third years of bachelor's. I was struggling with coding with my subjects, and I used to surf the internet and see, okay, is there any opportunity for me? Is there any scholarship? And I actually used to sit on the net for like 1 or 2 hours and do that. And at that time, I don't think LinkedIn was that famous. It was there, but maybe I was not that active, so I didn't knew anyone who went there. I had no idea what is GHC. So I came across this conference and I just randomly like applied for this, prepared for it, like wrote the answers. Typically, you have two essay questions and your bio data and then one letter of recommendations. Because I was working with professors at that time also, so I was lucky enough to get a letter of recommendation, and then I filled the application. After filling the application, I researched more about GHC, and then I was like, oh my god, it's such a big opportunity. If I'll get this, I can do many things. So luckily I got that, and I attended GHC India 2017 in November. So my advice would be this only, that you not every opportunity comes with a name tag or with a notification or announcement. Give some time to this, like searching about your field. What are the latest things happening in your field? What are the latest things, that trending things, or maybe some scholarships? That's how you can get some of the amazing stuff. Like internet has it all, we just need to put some energy and efforts on this. And because of the GHC India thing, I was aware that there is GHC International also, and all this time I was following up with the, with the newsletters and the mails. And after coming to USA, I knew that there would be GHC happening this year around September. So I started preparing. I started looking for the application form in November 2019 to apply for uh, 2020 conference that's going to happen in September. So you see the time that you need to prepare 1 year ahead if you're planning to go next year. Because the early bird application, I think it closed in January, if I'm not wrong. So you cannot do this, that if you want to do something in 2020, you're thinking in 2020. You need to think a year ahead. So think a year ahead, search on internet, and keep in touch with your alumni or people who are active in these areas, because they usually update their Facebook or LinkedIn or something, and then you can get some information. That's it.
Okay. You see the process really well there, and it's sometimes really daunting also to get into those opportunities because you know you're against a lot of good people as well. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so
Wow, I see that you're really passionate about what you're doing. Did you really always know that working in the technology was that what you wanted to do, or how did you decide to go into computer science? Is there any anyone who you look up to, or maybe a TV show? What was your inspiration?
Um, to be honest, I didn't knew in the starting where what should I do with my career. Like every kid is confused. So I tried everything. Like I'm a very creative person, so I tried all the things, dancing, painting, all the kind of extra stuff. But I somehow thought that these are good as hobbies, but you need to do something which is your calling. So technology has an attraction of its own. So if you start reading about it and then you feel interested, so that shows that you're inclined towards this thing. So I took computer science in my high school just to see that I can pursue this as my career or not. And it's funny because now I'm doing masters in computer science. I remember in my high school, I at one point I felt, oh God, what I took, because I learned C++ in the starting, and C++ is very easy for like hello world program and all the syntax, and I was struggling with that also. So I had my teacher and I said, I don't know, I want to quit and take some other subject, because I am not even able to print some simple program, the pattern programs that are very easy to do. And my class was performing really well and I was in the bottom. So she said, just keep on trying, you will get through it. And over the time I tried, and it feels amazing to see, starting from high school with computer science. I took that in my bachelor's, now in master's. So if you start doing something and you, even if you feel hardships, but you don't give up, it shows that you're actually interested in that subject. So if it would have not interested me in high school, I would have taken something else in bachelor's, but it did. It interested me so much that I continued that in my master's. So I think the key is you try things. If it interests you, you keep going. Talking in programmer's language, if it interests you, continue, else you stop. I think people who are in computer science will get this. So that's the key.
okay.
Yes.
That's yeah. Um, we see also that a lot of people, young people, don't also know that what their path is, and they kind of get into computer science by
Mhm.
mistake, and they end up doing really well. So yeah, that's like an inspiration to the young people out there. Um, we see that more women are getting involved in the tech industry right now,
Mhm.
and as we mentioned, Justin and I are actually on that path too. But
Mhm.
we also know that it hasn't been smooth sailing for us women. Could you
Mhm.
share what challenge you faced or you are facing now as a woman in the industry?
I would say, see, there are two types of views in this, long term and short term. We can talk about unequal pay, hardship that women face in work culture, but seeing the audience there, I want to be as relevant as I can be. I think the biggest challenge is the confidence that you belong to that place. So I remember when in my bachelor's I didn't have GHC and I initially went there. I was this like I didn't have the confidence to say, okay, I'm doing bachelor's in computer science and I know this tech, because I used to feel I'm not that good enough. And I used to see my peers like, typically the ratio of men to women in STEM courses, we all know this fact that we need to encourage more women into STEM. So you see there are less women around, and then you feel underconfident, and then you don't know if you know what it is it enough that you know or not. So I think the biggest challenge is feeling of belongingness in the technical field. So that got solved by, I'll actually give credit to GHC, because before going there and after coming from there, I was completely a different person. At that time, if you'll keep me in a room with some programmers and tell me to program something, I'll be that girl who's hesitant to code, because they'll think I'm stupid. I'm coding it like this. But now, if you'll leave me with some programmers, I may not be superior to them, but I have the confidence because I have been exposed in GHC India. GHC 2020 is coming now. Many more conferences that I attended in between, that it gave me the confidence that I am not the technically weaker gender. I am equal to the guys doing that thing. So it's very important to develop that confidence, and it won't come by reading textbooks or scoring good marks. No, it won't. You need to go out and you need to do something which shows, okay, we may be less in number right now, but we are progressing, and that's how the thing is done. So that's the thing.
Wow, that is really inspirational. For us, like women in tech, I really think that it always happens like that. That we lost confidence in ourselves. It really starts within us, right? Um,
Yeah.
and I think it's not any. I don't think it's any secret that us women are have felt that their gender has affected the way that they are treated. Have you ever been in a situation treated like that? How did you handle it?
Gender inequality is something that's so subtle, that's injected in our society in such a subtle way that some people don't even feel that it exists, and it triggers me like anything. If you'll talk about it, and people will be like, oh, don't start with feminism now. So it's injected in such a subtle way that the first step would is to actually acknowledge, yes, gender inequality is a thing, and no matter we live in 21st century, it still exists. So I feel that, when women talk about their right, it is seen as something that, they are doing, overdoing it, or it's they're talking, they already have so many things and they still want more about it. So talking about personal experience, I would say maybe I'm privileged enough that I didn't face gender equality inequality at such a big level, but there are small incidents like when you go to a hackathon. Like I initially went to a hackathon in my bachelor's, and I could see all the boys having teams and coding, and I felt that people expect geeky things from guys. They expect programmer stuff from guys, but they don't expect that from girls. And not every time they need to say that, right? It shows in the behavior, in the way they act. That's the thing. So I'll give an example about it. I see gender inequality as there is a cake on the table, right? I'm associating cake with all the privileges. So long back, only men has the privilege to eat that cake, all of it. Time changes and women started having some share, like 5%, 2%, 7%. And over the year, it's increasing. So with every percentage of cake that a woman gets, some percentage is reduced for the men. Not that they should feel good or bad about it, but it's human nature. If I was getting something all over and again it starts to pull, I'll feel cynical about it. Why is it happening? So I feel that the main reason for gender inequality is that people think women want the whole cake. No, we want the 50%, you take your 50%. It's still not 50. I don't agree when people say gender inequality is not a thing. It's not 50 right now. It can be 25, 30, or maybe 35. But we need our share. right? So when I talk about these things, even in my maybe I did some internship in my undergrad, people used to think that no, this is not the case. Women have so much advantage. They have other kind of advantage. So I feel that objectifying a woman and thinking that okay, she has all the rights, there is not much that needs to be done, is also a form of inequality that we face, and it's so subtle that talking about it doesn't, like, people commenting about it, it doesn't make them feel weird that they're commenting about such a big thing. It's like pink for girls, blue for boys, and these are, as I said, these are long term issues. I'm not even starting with the unequal pay things and all, but in our respect as students, bachelors and masters, I feel that whenever a woman talk about her right or something that she wants to do in courses like STEM, and when she's maybe mocked or maybe not that welcome, it's also a form of gender inequality. That's what I feel.
Okay, yeah. And like I also see that because of that gender inequality, women start to have imposter syndrome, especially in the tech, right? It's really important to address those. And like as women, we should know ourselves that we are capable even if we're surrounded by men. So what do you think is the best part of being a woman in the tech industry?
I feel we get to be geeky and glamorous at the same time. We are the geeky programmers who know how to carry themselves. You can't expect them from boys. I haven't seen the male programmers being, carrying themselves at the same time, but we do it quite well. So I think that's the best part.
Okay. Yeah, that's really like it's really amazing how we can actually like show ourselves or like handle ourselves, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I really agree. I do that too. I'm really geeky, like like most of us women. You said earlier that you notice a lack of women in technology, right? Uh, what do you think is the why that's the case? Why there is a lack of women in technology?
I feel again it boiled down to the confidence part. Like what we are passing to our younger generation, or what are the stereotypes. If a kid comes to high school and then bachelor's and masters, what does he see, what does she see around herself? If we won't see women participation around us, we can't expect the future generations to do that, right? So I feel that there is lack of women because women are hesitant to go into a field where they fear they'll be at the second position. They won't get the main seat. See, we all do investment when we decide to study something or do something. So if I feel that even after investing my time, money, and everything, I'll be at the back seat, why would I want to do that? That's human nature, right? So I feel this lack of women can be filled up if we make this kind of environment for our generation and the upcoming generation, that everyone will get the front seat. There is no back seat in this field. Like women engineers are as much welcome as the male engineers. You can do the field work, you can do the mechanical engineering work, you can build cars, you can build robots as equally as your male counterparts can. So that's the thing.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
that's it's a really like a push for the women to really get into tech because we also need the tech. Not it shouldn't be dominated by men because every perspective is really important. Especially now, there are like so many innovations and everything like that, and we need creative minds as well there. So right now, let's ask the audience if they have questions, and then if you have questions, just chat it in the chat box, or you can open your mic or cam and ask Deepali herself. So Gian said, "Any tips on how to look for opportunities?"
As I said, there is everything on the internet. You just need the right sources. For example, like I was pretty active in IEEE, so I looked for an organization which is active in my field, that's IEEE, and then I started looking for IEEE conferences and scholarships. So This is how you do it. First, you channelize your interest area, then you look for organizations dealing in that area or performing well in that area or standard in that area, and then you look for related conferences, scholarships, or contests for them. So, this is how you get the relevant opportunities. Like, you cannot just Google opportunities for me, right? So, you need to channelize the channels where you can see it. So yeah, that's the thing.
Okay. Um, yeah. And we also need to like really know how to get those opportunities because not everything that we see are actually true in a way. And yeah, we really have to go deeper. And it's not easy to see those opportunities, right? So I'll ask, may I ask, what is it? Oh, okay, sorry, go.
I understand this question. It's very easy to say just see relevant opportunities and apply, but being a fresher, I haven't done job yet. I did my bachelor's and I came for masters, so I know how hard how it could be to look for opportunities. So one thing that I would definitely like vote for is be in touch with your seniors or people who are already placed or doing work, because I'll say honestly, sometimes you'll feel that you're pestering them. You know, you're just messaging and texting. They may reply, they may not reply, but be there. Like, be there, ask your doubts. I'll give you my personal experience. There was a junior and she wanted to ask about GSC, and I was having my final exams and I was really stressed because that subject was really difficult. I didn't have the time to reply to her, and she messaged me and she was so polite. Okay, I know I might be disturbing you, but I don't want to know this thing. There is deadline for GHC, this and that. And you feel the other person may feel irritated, but I felt happy that she didn't give up for a source that she thought could be reliable. And at the end, when I got time, I get back to her. I actually gave some really like privileged information which she wasn't able to find on internet. So go to people. I what I'll say, you go to your professors, ask them. I went to my professors and said them randomly, I want to do this thing. I don't know where can I find the opportunities. Can you suggest me something? And you won't believe how much I benefit from them. So do this thing, like go to people, ask for it. If you won't ask for it, you won't get it. That's all I can say.
Thank
Okay.
you for that. We know what to do, Hannah, right? we
Yeah.
need to
You know what to do
we
now.
need yes, we know how to do now. Um there is a question from Hans. He is asking, what's a good day to be able to prepare for good opportunities that come?
That depends on your field specifically. Like, I can tell about computer science because I am in that field. For computer science, you need to have a good grip over competitive coding, because if you're looking for jobs, the coding interviews and coding rounds is something that you cannot omit. So have good grip over coding, data structure, algorithms, and you need to develop a way to communicate with the recruiter, because sometimes even I felt that some people have the knowledge but they don't know how to express their knowledge or express their views, and the other person does not know you, so he'll just judge you for the 20-25 minute window that you gave them, right? So to prepare for upcoming opportunities, first thing will be you need to develop confidence. I have seen people with more skills but less confidence not getting the opportunity, but people with a bit less skills and more confidence getting the opportunity. So I'll say it's all about how you market yourself. So if you know, like I know there is GHC going to be happen around September, so I need to prepare myself in a way that I can pitch myself. You need to prepare a good, if you ask me a point, prepare a good pitch. Prepare your resume. Resume is something that speaks on your behalf, right? And if you are in which field you are currently, just gather the technical knowledge about that field. Like I said, regarding the computer science, you need data structure and algorithm. It's inevitable. And then keep your eyes, ears open 24 hours. LinkedIn, Facebook, Reddit, Jumpstart, wherever you see opportunities, just don't procrastinate that I'll do it next week. If you see a conference link, if you see a scholarship application, start doing that right away. Don't delay things, because people actually have this habit that doing things by deadline, and then you miss opportunities and you regret that. So I'll say be active when you're applying to places.
Yes, I really agree when you said that confidence is really an important thing.
Yeah,
Hannah, do you
true.
have any questions for us?
Okay, Elizabeth here asks, may I ask what it is you guys do at GHC?
So GHC is like a place where you go. There it usually happens for 4 to 5 days. There are career fairs, sessions, mentoring tracks, competitions going on. So there is a whole fair where all the women are coming. There are speakers. There are, you can listen to the tracks. You can career fair is the main attraction. GHC career fair is a place where you name a company and you'll have it. It's so big. So main attraction is career fair. Then comes the track. Suppose you're interested in computer vision, there will be so many tracks happening about the topics. A professor or a person in industry dealing with that thing, and she or he'll tell you, okay, I'm dealing in this thing, and this is happening right now in nanotechnology. This is happening in this technology. So you can attend the tracks. Then the main reason that people look up to GHC so much is the hiring process. So people get good internships and jobs out of GHC because the companies have access to your resume through the database. So before even going to the conference, you upload your resume in the database. Companies see it. If they see that the interests align with their interest align with your interest, they contact you, and if everything goes right and you clear the starting test, they'll take your personal interview at the GHC itself, and you'll exit with the offer letter. And I know people who have like had 3 offer letters at the end of GHC. So that's what we do at GHC.
Yeah, yeah. So
Well,
you really see how many opportunities are really opened up in that GHC program, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so there's another question here from Nia. Nia, how do you manage your work-life balance?
I'm a student, so I don't think I'll have that much struggle in managing as people who are, who are in later stage of life. But I'll be honest that when I came to US, I'm originally from India. I came to US for my masters, and you think that you're in university, you'll enjoy, you will do a lot of things. But when it comes to difficult courses, like masters is not an easy course. Your personal life suffers. You are not that free that you were before. So you need to have your priorities set. Like my priority is having a job, and after that I know I can go around places and do whatever I want. So don't restrict yourself that all 7 days you're just working, because I did that thing and I started feeling demotivated. So I try to finish my work in weekdays, and at weekends I give myself a little slack, and then again in on weekend you're back. Just remember why you started, because it's very easy to get demotivated, or maybe you just lost your interest in the subject you're trying, but you need to know that why you started. So that's the thing.
Okay.
uh, thank you for that. Uh, I know that we must really remember how we started or why, because that will keep us going. We have a question here from Hans. He is asking, how important is it to build your network?
I feel that it's something that's very underrated. Like we should have actually be taught about the importance of network from the high school itself. I learned it a bit late, but when I learned it, I actually realized the power of networking. If in USA, if I would be talking about getting jobs and internship in USA, I've seen it. Like if you have your network, you can reach out to people and they can refer you. It makes a very big difference. And think about it. There are two people applying for the same thing, A and B. Person A actually knows someone in that place, and he can utilize his network. Not I'm not saying that person will get the job because of the network. That never happens. That a misconception. If a person thinks that, okay, I have this person in this company, I'll get the job. It never happens. But it gives you some privileged information, like what kind of candidate they are looking for, or what should you prepare. Okay, this is the time that we are hiring barely, or this time we are hiring in bulk. So these kind of information actually take you close. So that's why your network is important. It won't get you the job, but it will take you closer to the job. And we have LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is the best networking tool. I think everyone should exploit it as much as they can.
Yes, I really do use LinkedIn a lot right nowadays.
Yeah.
Hans is also asking. In addition to that, can we connect to you in LinkedIn?
Yeah, yeah, sure. I'm very open to connection. I'll be sharing a slide. There would be my contact details, but you can connect with me. My full name is Dipali Jain, so you can connect me with on LinkedIn. Sure.
Okay. So yeah, now we know that it is really important to exploit our network and really use it. People think sometimes that we might come off too annoying or like too like privileged in a sense. Yeah, it's really important as well, no?
I would
Um,
actually like to add one more thing here.
yeah.
This was actually said by someone I attended a seminar, and he said, just don't look for opportunities. Give opportunities as well. If I have some information, or I have something that can be beneficial to my network, I should be able to communicate it with them. Suppose I know Justin is looking for a job in this field. She is my LinkedIn connection, and maybe some days ago she posted, okay, I'm looking for something in this thing. And if I get to something like this and I pass that information to her, believe me, if you will be helping to the community, I'm not just saying on the goodness part, even if you think about the benefits, if you will be active in community, you'll be helping the people. You don't know what opportunity will come back in, as a return gift for your goodness, or as a return gift for your help that you gave some person. And it happens, it actually happened. That person actually told me that he used to help people with, if someone is looking for something and he has someone in the network, he used to connect those people. And when he got kicked out of his job, he was looking for a job, his connections actually helped him to get a job in a very shorter period of time. So make this a point, just not seek help, do help as well.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, it's really a give and take relationship.
Yeah.
And the people in the tech or like in general, like really need to look out for each other because it really isn't a competition. It's like, yeah, we have to. So Matt here is asking, what are you studying in your master's degree?
I'm studying computer science in my master's degree, computer science and engineering.
Okay. Amy here is asking, why did you jump into taking masters after your bachelor right away? And would you recommend it to others as well?
I did my bachelor's from a normal university. It was a tier 3 university, and I actually wanted to explore more about the field because, see, one option is that you can do some work, have some work experience, and come. That's actually recommended, and I won't deny it. Maybe I could have taken some experience, but personally, this is very personal. I'm not saying I'm recommending this, but I feel that when you're studying and you are in that flow of studying, and then you continue that flow, it's because if you do job for 2 3 years and then again come back to studies, I don't know, your interest is at the same level or not, your concepts are at the same level or not. So I wanted to continue that flow that I was in. So that's why I did masters. But I would actually say that if you want to take some industry experience, some practical industry experience, work for 2 years, like don't stretch it to 4 5 years. That I won't recommend ever, because then you lose interest in studies completely. It's very difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it takes a good amount of courage to work for 4 to 5 years and then again come back to studying. So if you want to take experience, you can take it for like 1 to 2 or 3 years and then again come back to study. Or if you want to go into research, like that you want to convert your master's into PhD or thesis, then I think there is no point of taking a break or taking an industrial exposure. You should jump away to master straight. That's it.
Uh, that's really nice. I totally agree. Because for me personally, I think I would um choose the to have an experience after graduation instead of um having a master's degree, because it's really not my it's really not my forte to be studying. I'm
Mhm.
not really good at it, but I'm really good at asking others for help, so I still survive in my field or course. Phoebe has a question for you. She
Mhm.
asked, compared to other conferences you've attended, what made GHC different and big?
I'll tell you the other conferences that I have attended so that you can relate to that. So as I mentioned, there is this society IEEE. It's a very big, it's a very standard and big society for engineers. So I was pretty active in that society in my bachelor's. For like first and second year I did volunteering. In third year I was a general secretary, and in fourth year I was a chairperson for this part called Women in Engineering IEEE. So there were many conferences happening for like International Leadership Summit by IEEE or some other kind. There in USA there are conferences like TAPIA and many more conferences. But I'll tell you why GHC is different and big. So these conferences generally have a particular target group or a particular environment they're targeting. Some conference is about people of color, some conference is about a particular state. Like I attended regional conferences a lot. So GHC is this big umbrella where you get the global exposure. Like GHC has two kind of event. One is GHC International that happens in USA. Like it's happening in Florida for last 2 years, I guess. This time it's virtual, and the other is GHC India. It happens in India, like in some state in India. So even GHC India gave me such a global exposure which I was not able to get from other conferences because maybe people were restricted to a particular group. I met a particular kind of people, a particular kind of section. But in GHC, I met so people from diverse backgrounds, not belonging to a particular target sector. So this is what makes GHC different. And what makes us big is all the companies, you name it, Google, Adobe, JP Morgan, VMware, every company acknowledges GHC. It comes to GHC, it hires through GHC. So it has this reputation. If you talk about, as I said, that you need to market yourself to get a job. So in marketing, what goes? The name, the fame, or the name associated with the brand. So it increases your brand value. If I'm writing GHC Scholar on my resume today, on my LinkedIn profile, you won't believe the number of views or the number of connections tripled, not even double, triple or quadrupled. So it increases your brand value and it makes you meet people at a global level, I would say.
Uh, Thank you for letting us know. We had an idea on how JHC was like. Hans is asking for any tips on how to work from home effectively.
Um, I wouldn't be the like best person to answer this because even I lose the slack at times. Like I didn't study for today, like and yesterday also to be honest. But I feel that you need to think that this is some kind of bonus time. If you see it that way, it's not only happening with you. The COVID thing or the situation is not only happening with you. It's happening with everyone all over the world. So there are people who are like there is COVID, there is lockdown, and we can't do anything, or we don't want to study, we don't feel like study. Let's give ourselves some rest and sit down. So this is kind of a bonus time. Think about it as that way. So what you can think is don't pressurize yourself to do like all the things, complete all the tasks, but if imagine if in a day apart from 24 hours you get 28 hours, extra 4 hours, you can actually sit and do nothing in that 4 hours because it won't make any difference because initially you had only 24 hours. But what if you do something nice in that 4 hours. So if a person who is just doing typical work in 24 hours and then wasting those 4 hours, you will be so much ahead of that person. Don't think of it as a pandemic time. Think about it as a bonus time, which gave you the time to be at home, study. I like developing games on Unity, so I was not getting time for that because I used to go and attend classes. In this time, I actually went back to Unity. I developed them in my bachelor's, but I lost the touch in between. And I again started that. See, so this thing wouldn't be there if there was not so much of time. So do something which excites you. Make games, make applications, do anything that excites you, I would say.
Okay. Um, so yeah, it's really important to see how much our time is worth right now, and sometimes we also get demotivated because yeah, we're in a pandemic and we're not expected to work, right? Or like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's really important for us as well to really maximize our time right now and build on skills that we should have or we think is necessary. So, Gian here is asking, how do you ask the right questions in asking opportunities?
Asking the right questions, that's actually good. That's actually a good question, how to ask right questions. So I would say that don't be too blunt in the start. Like if suppose that you reach out to me to ask about GHC and you don't know me and I'm someone on LinkedIn, so you shouldn't be messaging right away. Tell me about GHC, or I want to know about GHC and how to get scholarship, because that it would seem like you're just bluntly messaging me and asking me something. So what would be the right way to do this thing? I'm just giving one example. Hello Dipali, I came across your profile on LinkedIn. I saw that you got GHC. I'm trying to get it too. It would be grateful if you could, tell me something about it. You should. It's just an example. You need not to be exact same, but you need to show that person that you are interested in the experience of that person. That's why you're reaching out. See, knowing about the GHC and scholarship thing, you can Google it as well. But why are you asking me? Because you want to know the real scenario, how you get it and how you do it. So you need to make the other person feel that you want to know their experience, as it may help you, right? So be uh, be a bit personalized. Like, don't prepare a template and shoot that to 10 people at the same time, because you won't be asking personalized questions then. Study the profile of that person and then make that person feel that you want to ask their experiences, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, we should really also know how to talk to people and communicate with them because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it would feel like that we're demanding in a way. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for those tips. Okay, Hans here has asked, since you mentioned demotivation, he asked, have you ever experienced burnout? If so, do you have any tips on how to deal with it?
Uh, you should ask my friends and family how many burnouts I have since the COVID thing starts. So it's very common to feel burnout, to feel irritated and I am away from family. I never lived away from family before, and when I came here, it was already very much difficult to do things. Then the COVID thing came, and now you cannot even go somewhere and do something. So I think the best way to deal with it would be, you need some kind of mental support. Some people are close to their family, some people are close to their friends. Have someone you can talk about it. Sometimes I feel irritated and I just talk about it. I cannot do this, I cannot do that, and I'll just talk for some time, maybe to my mother, to my sister, or someone I feel close to. So whenever you feel burnt out, make sure you have someone to go to and tell them things. People may underrate this thing of communication or saying things, but you're feeling that and you're sleeping with that won't help you to get out of it. So go to someone, take it out all, and do a fresh start. And I would say, whenever I feel burnt out or I feel I'm not able to achieve my targets, I set very small targets for the next day. Suppose I'm doing a medium or hard question on competitive coding level, and I'm irritated because I'm not able to do it. For next day, I'll do two easy questions, to increase, to uplift my morale so that I may get back on the track. So it's normal to feel burnout. It's not something that unusual with you. Take rest also. If you're working for 1 month or 2 months and you haven't had a rest, that's not going to work. Take rest, talk to someone, take it out all, and then start again with smaller goals. That I would say.
Okay. So late we will ask more questions later. So Deepali, you had a presentation for
Yeah,
us, right?
yeah,
Right. Okay.
yeah,
Okay. So you may present that. You can talk about that now.
yeah. I think you need to present that. I cannot see that
Yeah,
on my
yeah.
screen. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Here.
So that's from 2017 GHC conference, and the lady in the poster is the person for whom this whole conference is named after, and that's me, of course. Next slide, please. Uh, Yeah. So what's the difference between GHC and GHC India? It's a more particular question, but I'll just say it. GHC India is for people studying in India. They are enrolled in an Indian institute and it happens around November. So do apply before, I would say, March, as far as I remember. So this is the timeline for GHC India. And GHC is international. It happens around September, October. This year it's from 29th September to 2nd or 3rd of October. The scholarship deadline was in starting of Feb or end of January, as far as I remember. So if you're planning for GHC International, start preparing your answers by November or December. Apply by January, and the results will come out in first week of June, and the conference will be in September. So this is the timeline for both of the conferences. Yeah. Next slide, please. Main points to consider if you're applying for GHC. I really want all of you to note that because not many people pay attention to these things. GHC is very expensive. Cost of registration, accommodation, travel, overhead charges. It makes a very good amount. Okay, so do apply for scholarship because I know as students we all can't afford such expensive conferences. So keep the cost factor in mind. Second thing would be availability of tickets. I read somewhere it gets sold in like 20 minutes when the registration opens. So it's not only about money, it's also about availability. The tickets will get sold when the registration will open. So keep an eye on the website when the registration is opening because you need to get the ticket, right? Third would be connect with previous scholars. They would give you some practical tips from their own experience, and believe me, I benefited from it a lot. I talked to so many GHC past scholars that I actually had the idea what is GHC looking for in a scholar, and I incorporated that thing in my answers. This is very important and the main point, upload your resume as soon as possible on the GHC database. Timing plays a crucial role. I'll share a person's experience. She was late in uploading the resume. She uploaded that before the conference, like before 2 days of the conference. She missed so many events. She missed so many privilege invites happening in the conference. One thing that you can actually connect with is that her friends who registered early got free tickets to Disneyland from the companies, and she missed that. So I just said that so that you realize that how many things you could be missing because of the timing. Fifth would be approach a recommender who actually write a strong recommendation for you. It increases your chance of getting an acceptance. So there, you need one letter of recommendation. Make sure the person actually writes something about you, actually good about you, because a vague letter of recommendation is not something what GHC people are looking at it. So pick a person you work closely with. It can be anyone, your professor, your employer, anyone. Write your personal and genuine experience in essay questions. They carry major weight. So GSA application has majorly 2 to 3 questions. They are like, what will you do for the community if you get that? And one would be why you should get that, broadly saying. So don't copy paste your answers. Be candid. Why actually you think I wrote these? Believe me, it took me days to write these answers. It took me 1 month to finalize these answers. I wrote them. I got reviewed them from past scholars, my seniors, from professors. from people I know, they have a good hold over the language. So these answers are actually important. Don't rush into these answers. Yeah. Next slide, please. What if you don't get the scholarship? This is the main point because scholarships are very limited and it's not possible that all of us get that. So don't worry, it's difficult to get in one go, but it doesn't mean you can't attend the conference. So what are the alternate ways that you can attend the conference? To attend GSC, there are a lot of scholarships awarded by big companies in the business like Facebook, Google, etc. They actually fund your by scholarship. Okay, if some people are confused about the scholarship part, I'll tell you. Scholarship means like this year it was going to happen in Florida. My travel charges, my accommodation charges, and my GSC registration ticket, which is around $500 for student, all will be covered by the scholarship. So you don't get money, you get funded to go to the GHC scholarship. That's the scholarship I'm talking about. So first option is pitch to companies. They look for the scholarship. Second is even your university have funds for these kind of activities. Not all people know about this. I actually went to many people in my university to have a backup in case I didn't get the scholarship. But I got the scholarship. But I had actually 2 to 3 backup of people who would fund me in case I didn't get this. There are many societies, clubs, interest groups active in your college community which support this thing. Look out for them. If you are doing a job or internship, your company can even sponsor for it. Ask for it. You know, companies have separate fund for these kind of activities. If you're interning or having a job, ask your company to fund you for GHC. Okay, the worst case scenario would be you don't get scholarship, you don't get funded from either of the sources I mentioned. The worst would be you need to pay out of your own pocket. But believe me, the impact of GSC is such that I would even recommending paying from your pocket because in the end we want job or internship, whatever we are looking, right? So in case you convert that offer, just think about the conversion. $500 registration ticket, even if you take the travel, air ticket charges, accommodation charges, it's going to be worth if you know you can convert. That's it. Next slide, please. I'm just trying to cover as much as I can in the time. So one attraction about GHC is the companies. You can see all the companies on the board. That's from GHC India 2017 pick. So all these companies hire at GHC Career Fair. So you can actually see how big it is by the names of the companies. They actually hire you there. So if you're going to get there, there are high chances that you'll end up in one of the companies mentioned here if you're prepared. Not everyone gets it, but if you're prepared, you can convert it. Yeah. Next slide, please. So these are the swag that I got from GHC 2017 conference, which I won't be getting this year because it's online, it's virtual. We would be missing all this, but there was some cool stuff in there. So just wanted you to feel excited about this conference because maybe not this year it's not happening in person, but from next year it will. So keep an eye on that. Yeah, next please. Next slide. Yeah. So people who are asking me if they can contact me, I am very open to helping or people who reach me out because I have been helped by a lot of seniors and it's just my way of giving it back. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn or email me. This is my personal email ID. You can email me on that. I am available. I live in USA in like EST time zone, so you can expect time. You can expect a reply according to that time only, and I would be happy to help. Yeah, I think we are done. Just one more slide is there. Yeah, that's me at the end of GHC when the fair was empty. So yeah, it was a very good experience. Thank you guys. That's it from my side. Hannah, your mic is mute.
Hello,
Yeah.
Hannah. You're muted.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, thank you for sharing to us some tips on how to get to GC and what to do. I think it's really important for us women to know that. And also for sharing how many opportunities or how big it really is and how much it can open in reality. Okay. So now we'll be going back to the questions from the audience again. If you have
Mhm.
questions, please chat it in the chat box, or you can open your mic and camera and yourself. Okay, Justin.
So you said, Deepali, that you are mastering, mastering computer science and engineering, right? VR is
Mhm.
asking, in what specific field are you in the tech field? Is
So
it?
my yeah, go on.
I Yes, go on. Sorry.
Yeah. So it's basically some people do specialization like AI or ML or data science. My course is one of the core courses like computer science. It is. It's there is no specialization in it. I think you're asking about the subjects, maybe what I am actually studying in computer science. That I can tell you. Like I have studied algorithms, machine learning, information retrieval, and Java. Apart from that, I have did some practical projects like learning React, Angular, practical tools for developing applications. And so in computer science, there are actually choices that you can go for ML, AI kind of stuff. That's the data science path. I did software, like I am interested more into the core concepts only. So my specialization is software only. So in software, there are subjects like big data or information retrieval or Java. These kind of things come into my study area.
Okay, thank you for sharing us your subjects. Kevin is asking, speaking of remembering how or why you've started to get away from the motivation, what's your reason for pursuing your current field?
Uh,
Those questions are for the late joiners of our event.
okay. So
Yes.
the dream I would say, if I'll say honestly, since the day I came to know the meaning of engineering or I knew something like this existed, the thing that attracted me, that got interested me in this field was Google. Google search is actually a magical tool if you see it that way. When people, our parents didn't had something like that, you can search anything and you can get onto it. So I really want to go to Google one day. That's my dream. That keeps me motivating when I get away with that. So it started with interest in tech, maybe. Then slowly, as I came to know about the technology more and more, if you'll talk about my dream company, that's Google any day. And learning new things in tech keeps me going, keeps me motivating because I'm not that kind of person who can spend like years on studying something theoretical and not able to implement that. It I know I'll get bored. So in my field, you implement, you see the results. It's very dynamic. So this is what keeps me motivated, maybe.
Okay. So for now, that's all the questions in the chat. Okay. If anyone has um any questions left before we end or conclude, you may open your mic and cam, or you can chat in the chat box. Wait for a few seconds. No one? No questions? No more questions? Okay. Okay, so let's conclude now. What do you, Deepali, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you started in your career?
uh, there again, I would say there is this big pool of opportunities that we know don't know. You know, in my field there are competition like under 13, under 15, code jam, coding competition for women. So many things that were I didn't even knew about all this when I was 13 or 15. So I really wish that there were so much of awareness when I started, because if I have to guide the coming generation now, I know that if a person knows that he is or she is interested in such a thing, there are so many sources to start with. So I actually wish there was so much awareness around me, and so that I could have learned things that I learned in bachelor's, maybe in junior school or high school. So that's the thing I feel.
Okay,
Uh,
Justin?
uh, we have a question here. What do you think is something you still need to learn in your journey in the tech industry?
I need to learn a lot, to be honest. On the technical side, I know front end. I have worked on front end. I have worked on making games on Unity platform. I'm trying my hand on back end right now. I am trying to become a full stack developer so that I can develop the front end and back end and develop a whole website. Apart from that, apart from the technical, I feel like, as I said, I did my schooling, then bachelor's, then master's. I hadn't the opportunity to work, and I thought I'll be interning this summer, but because of the COVID thing, there were so many less opportunities. I couldn't get a company. Like, I'm working remotely as a volunteer for a startup, but I'm not actually interning with the company. So I feel that I need genuine industry exposure for right now in my careers to see how things work in real life. It's just academic or volunteer work till now. This is what I want to learn, how things work in corporations or industry. That's it.
Hello, Hannah.
You are
Sorry
again
again.
muted.
Okay. It is it is a learning curve for all of us, especially now, and we really need to like maximize all our opportunities, right? So for the finale, what question would you have asked yourself that we didn't ask you today?
Um I would have actually try to take as if I would be the person sitting in the audience and someone would have been being the speaker. I would have actually not on text. This is my personal view that it gives you another kind of confidence when you just talk to the person face to face, and I really like that thing. If anyone would have unmuted the mic and talk to me, I want to know this, or I want this, is like the first step in that confidence string that I was talking to. I was really looking forward that someone will ask the question herself rather than typing in the text. And another thing would be the contact thing was good. I would obviously try to, as I said, build your network. I would have started with the speaker itself. That's me in this case. So if you think I'm resourceful, pester me with your mails or with your LinkedIn messages. Take out as much information as you can. Third would be maybe I'll ask if it's about GHC. I'll ask more about the kind of answers that I wrote, because I didn't spoke about it much. The answers and the letter of recommendation, the content that I put in my application that landed me a scholarship. That's it, I think. I've not
Okay.
achieved that much that I can answer some, like, there are people, I saw the previous tech talks people place in Apple and companies like that. So I haven't reached that milestone yet, but yeah, I can answer about scholarships and applications very well.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind. If we want to connect with you on LinkedIn, and yeah, nice to know that we can reach you, and
Yeah.
we'll be open to that. Okay, so if anyone have any final questions, you may do so. Open your mic or your cam. As what Dipali mentioned, she wants to see you. Any last questions before we end?
Don't hesitate to chat in the chat box.
Okay, so I think there are no more for today. Justin?
Um, Hello.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's it for today's episode of our Tech Talk series on how Deepali won GHC 2017 and GHC 2020.
Okay. So thank you for coming to today's episode, and we hope to see you in the next one. Thank you guys, and thank you, Dipali, for being able to talk
Thank you
today.
so much. Thank you
Thank you
so much,
guys for giving me
Deepali,
this
for sharing
opportunity.
us.
Love talking to you guys and sharing what I felt like. It feels nice. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sure, for sure. See you We hope that we can connect with you and see you guys next time. Bye.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you for today. Thank you.
Happy studying, girls. Bye. Bye.
Bye.